Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Green and Ranking Member Thompson, for coming to the Rules Committee today. Chairman Green, I'd like to just start by commending you on your work throughout this process. Your committee has been incredibly methodical in getting to this point. I know today we don't have as much time here to talk and spend as much time as your committee has on the process, but I was hoping that we could, you could walk with me through sort of summarizing the conversation and clarifying the most important points. First thing I want to do, though, is read directly from the Department of Homeland Security's own website, specifically with their mission statement. Quote, "With honor and integrity, we will safeguard the American people, our homeland, and our values." It goes on to state, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and its Homeland Security mission are born from the commitment and resolve of Americans across the United States in the wake of the September 11th attacks. In those darkest hours, we witnessed true heroism, self-sacrifice, and a unified resolve against evil. We rallied together for our common defense, and we pledged to stand united against the threats attacking our great nation, fellow Americans, and way of life. Additionally, they've got guiding principles. DHS quotes that they will remain resolute against today's threats and hazards by keeping pace with our adversaries and preparing for those of tomorrow by identifying and confronting systemic risk. It goes on to say Homeland Security is a whole of society endeavor from every federal department and agency to every American across this nation. We will work together and empower partners to leverage national capacity and capabilities and develop contingency plans that make America safe, secure, and resilient against all threats and all hazards. Mr. Chairman, does the department's actions, particularly against the state of Texas in their own efforts to secure the border, live up to that particular guideline?
Not at all.
DHS goes on to say that it will ensure its operators and employees have the necessary tools, resources, and authorities to execute its mission. It goes on to talk about the core values of the Department of Homeland Security. Integrity. Each of us serves something far greater than ourselves. To our nation, we represent the President and the Congress. To the world seeking to visit or do business with us, we are often the first Americans they meet. We will faithfully execute the duties and responsibilities entrusted to us, and we will maintain the highest ethical and professional standards. Regarding vigilance, we will relentlessly identify and deter threats that pose a danger to the safety of the American people. As a department, we will be constantly on guard against threats, hazards, dangers that threaten our values and our way of life. Mr. Chairman, would you say that Secretary Mayorkas is living up to their own mission, stated mission, guiding principles, and core values?
I want to say that the people of the Department of Homeland Security, I just recently, have been to the border, of course, and I've been through our border, our air border, and, the people are doing the very best they can. This isn't an issue of the employees of DHS. This is an issue, and if you talk to Border Patrol, Border Protection, they'll definitely tell you they're doing what the Secretary's told them to do. And
yes,
it's not what they want.
Chairman Green, I have also visited the border, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
My criticism here is specifically to the leadership of Secretary Mayorkas in his directives that I, quite frankly, don't believe live up to the mission and guiding principles and core values of what the Department of Homeland Security should be.
I agree.
I want to touch just a little bit on the work that your committee did, particularly that Secretary Mayorkas has willfully refused to comply with numerous detention requirements spelled out by the Immigration and Nationality Act, instead implementing a mass catch and release scheme. In fact, you've found, I think, 7 different violations, at least, Mr. Chairman, of the Secretary Mayorkas in violation of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Is that correct?
That is correct, 7.
And in that, certain of these requirements that he has failed to follow, they require at least 5 times that I see the statement in the law, shall be detained. Does catch and release and shall be detained, are those two things substantially similar or substantially different?
They are diametrically opposed.
So would you say the primary responsibility of the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security is to oversee the department's efforts in safeguarding the United States' national security?
Absolutely.
8 million people have been let into this country under the Biden administration since in the last 3 years. That's 1 million more people than the state of Indiana, which I represent. Is that number accurate?
That is correct.
Is it true that CBP has encountered 49 individuals on the terrorist watch list in this fiscal year alone?
Yes, 49.
Is it true that the United States Customs and Border Patrol had a record more than 300,000 encounters at the southern border of the United States in December of 2023 under Secretary Mayorkas?
302,000, yes.
Is it true that CBP has reported 1.7 million known gotaways?
I think it's at 1.8 million now.
Is it true that DHS has lost 100,000 migrant children?
Yes, it is.
Has the Department of Homeland Security, under Secretary Mayorkas' leadership, made policy decisions that may have led to the consequences that I have just described?
Absolutely. The policies are the cause.
Is it true that after multiple attempts to have Secretary Mayorkas appear before your committee, that his team responded at 4:48 a.m. on the day of the markup with a letter defending himself and his decisions?
That is correct. We attempted 4 times to get him to come, and he did not. He evaded, wouldn't answer, said no in some instances, and then 4:48 in the morning sends us his written, I think it was 7-page letter.
Chairman Green, did Secretary Mayorkas meaningfully engage within your investigation?
No, he is continuing. I think on 40 occasions we still have outstanding. I mean, we've had to subpoena him to get some stuff, but there are multiple examples, and I believe 40 where he's just refused. They don't even answer. We send stuff over. They don't even acknowledge that they've gotten it.
Mr. Chairman, did Secretary Mayorkas comply with the laws of the United States, which his agency is bound by?
No.
With respect to his oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, has Secretary Mayorkas upheld that oath with a border open to drug cartels, criminals, human traffickers, and potential terrorists, a fentanyl epidemic destroying American communities, a record number of migrant deaths, rising human trafficking and the exploitation of minors, a public health disaster, and an annual net burden to the American taxpayer exceeding $150 billion?
I believe his oath to the Constitution is violated by his refusal to recognize the separation of powers in the Constitution, and that we write the laws, they execute them, and he has failed and actually intentionally subverted some of those laws.
Thank you, Chairman Green. Thank you for your leadership. It's certainly sad to find ourselves in this position, but cabinet-level secretaries are responsible for their actions, just as any of us are. We must hold the Secretary to account. I appreciate you doing so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you. I appreciate both of our witnesses, particularly it was a long session, so thank you both